I was saying, um, I haven't posted a lot lately for a lot of very human reasons. Um, the number one reason has been grief, honestly. And I am well acquainted with grief in my life. And I learned as a child that when I'm grieving, that I should be with that grief and allow that grief to do its work in me and with me, and not just try to accelerate the grief's passing. Also know, and many of you probably know if you've been living long enough, that grief comes in waves. Um, it shows up in inopportune times, or what we might think of as inopportune times. But I think that grief exists for a beautiful reason. One is to introduce us to more of ourselves. It helps us allow scales to drop from our eyes. Sometimes we can be in denial a lot. Denial is a defense mechanism that is very prevalent, at least as far as I know, in American society. Um, grief, excuse me, denial is a very um, accessible defense mechanism. I know many people who just they try not to look at things. They act like ostriches that stick their heads in those holes and think if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. But that's not the case, right? When we deny something, it still eventually bites us in the ass, just like that ostrich is going to get its ass eaten while his head is in a hole. Many of us take that route. I don't know what value people get from it because it's not something that I tend to do. I tend to just face whatever it is, allow it to do whatever work it has to do on me, allow myself to become the new person that I'm going to be after that experience. And then I live. And so, um, one of the griefs that has been kind of shaping my experience lately has been the passing of a man who was like a father to me ever since I was just about to turn 7 years old. Um, is a guy named, well, Leroy Edmonds, but everyone called him Chico. And when I was about seven, my mom, almost seven, it was the first time I went and spent a chunk of time with my dad since my parents had separated. And when I came back, my mom was dating Chico. And Chico immediately just grabbed onto me like a son. He just was like, he literally just started calling me son. And it felt good, honestly. Growing up without my dad around, it was hard for me and a lot of young men that find themselves in that situation. But Chico chose to treat my brother and I, or my brother and me, like we were his own children. And he continued to do that all the way till he and my mom broke up. And he was actually interested in staying in our lives. And I took him up on that offer. So he was in my life from just about turning seven all the way until he died on the 1st of August. And the last time I saw him was May. And they said he was getting dementia and different things like that. But when I walked in, he was asleep and I went and I touched him and he turned around and he looked at me and he was like, Pedro? And he just like had a big smile on his face, man. And it was just like the most beautiful thing. And like even now, as I try to share this, like it touches my heart. Um, and it deeply has shaped the person that I've become because Chico was um I don't know what you would call Chico. Some people say like an old head from where I grew up. He's always dropping wisdom and knowledge, and his heart was full of love, and he loved the ladies as they joked about. But he loved people in general, and if you had his heart, then he was there for you, and if you didn't have his heart, then he would let you know that too. And the effect that Chico had on me, I don't know who I would be without Chico. Hi, Christine. Thanks for joining. I don't know who I'd be without Chico in my life. And a lot of the guys in my neighborhood, we did not have dads. But Chico being there in those critical times ensured that I became a different kind of person. And my heart is the same heart as Chico's. And so I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, it's been the grief of his passing has been informing me very deeply. Chico was a manual laborer person. He built fences when I was growing up, when kids were doing certain things to get money. He made sure I never had to do stuff like that because he would let me go out and build fences with him. And we had some different fence adventures. I might get into at some other point. But that grief has been doing its work on me and it's been shaping me. And I can feel myself becoming a different person because he's not here in the body. I can't call him anymore. I can't go visit him. Those sorts of things, you know. Um, but that's a part of life. Uh, but I think that it's important for us to learn how to be present with grief and allow it to be what it is, allow it to shape us, allow it to let us let things go and let other things blossom. And that's something that we do not appreciate in our society. We try to move through those things faster than our hearts are ready for. And when we do that, we go into denials. And when we go into denials, we miss out on a lot of things. And so I want to start off by saying that I haven't written as much and haven't made videos and stuff because I've been allowing the grief to do its work. Another thing that's been grieving me, and it's not to be, I'm not surprised by it, but it's just like the way that our society, that same denial that we try to speed through that keeps us from engaging our grief, we do that personally, you know, individually, but we also do it communally and collectively. And our country trying to be in this active state of denial about everything that's happening. Not everybody is, obviously. There's some people that's like totally not in denial, but a big number of us are in denial. We are those folks who stick our heads in the sand like an ostrich, hoping we don't see our ass get bitten, knowing our ass is getting bitten. And by looking at like the attacks on Black history, um, that's a grief, not just because I'm Black. It's a grief for our society as a whole. Because as I said in a post yesterday, wasn't like an active post, but just a note on my wall, is that Black history is the blueprint for perseverance, because Black Americans in particular have been through the worst. And there's no, we are the blueprint for surviving crap. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that Black people have never collectively experienced the democracy that some people feel like they're losing. It's never been our experience. We've never had that. It's something we've aspired to and been kept out of in so many different ways. And then we try to make the best of what is showing up, but we've never fully experienced it. So on one side, we're going to be able to survive it because we're losing something. We're not losing something. We've never had it. So it's not the same. Like, it's a different feeling when you had something and you lost it than when you aspire to something but you never get it. You know, it's a different kind of internal reservoir of energy that you build up from aspirational energy, and we can just focus that aspirational energy elsewhere. But so can other people if they learn from our experiences. They can know, like, I'll just tell you like this. In America, in conceptually, in people's minds, even though they don't know that they think this, freedom equals not being treated like a Black person. That's what it is. Like, people don't consciously realize it, but most people just don't want to get treated like a Black person. Like, getting treated like a Black person, the average idea of how Black people are treated is the worst. And no one wants to get treated like that. So everything that people can do to avoid that, they think that that is some semblance of freedom. And so more and more people start to get treated like Black people, they're like, this sucks. But if you don't want it to get that bad, study what we've done. Study what we've been through. Study how we still keep our humanity, even though we've experienced all these things, because that is a blueprint for some of us to avoid the worst and to learn how to thrive. Because in the midst of all of that, if you really read Black history, you'll find people doing things during slavery that you're like, how the F did this dude or this woman pulled this off when there was literally nowhere they could go, but they escaped, thrived, and all those other things. None of you have the chance. Most of us will not go through what Black American ancestors have gone through. Most of us won't. Thank God. But we are going in that direction. But if you want to avoid it, learn from it. I don't think I'm gonna say more about that. Now I'm gonna pivot to comedy. So some of you might know that I also do stand-up comedy. One of the reasons I do stand-up comedy is because if I didn't do stand-up comedy, I would be cussing people out on a regular basis. I use comedy as a way of taking some of the negative things that I experienced and then transforming them into something that's more lightning, like in an alchemical kind of way. There's a formula for comedy that I've shared before. It's tragedy plus time. So if something tragic happens, then over time, that tragic thing becomes funny because you can start to look at it from multiple perspectives and then it becomes funny. And we know that this is a fact because if somebody starts joking about something that's painful, we say that's too soon. But we know that eventually, inherently, we know that eventually it will be funny. So I've been using that. And one thing that I've been doing a lot of is what I would say is collapsing time, is thinking, okay, this is going to be funny. Maybe it's going to be funny a year from now, but I can start looking for it now. And I will then slowly release some of the comedy, either through doing stand up or through now I'm starting to do comedic music, which I'm releasing a comedic song today. Um, but I've been using that comedy tool to be able to lighten the burden because the fact is many people are they are not going to do anything. Like many people aren't going to do anything. They're going to sit and wait because they don't want to disrupt whatever good they do have and they want to hold on to whatever good they think they have. So they're not going to do anything. And then some people are going to do too much. And that's just the way it's been throughout human history. I'm trying to look at the landscape and see where I can be of service. I'm pretty decent at words, so I decided to use those, and I can use those in a variety of ways. So I'm expanding beyond just writing posts and things, which I actually prefer. A long time ago, before I got more comfortable public speaking, I used to be terrified of speaking in public. I wouldn't have done what I'm doing right now. It was terrified because my mom was so good at it, and if I made mistakes, she would say, "How could you be my son and not be good at this?" And so, parents can F you up and mine get, sprinkle a little messed up stuff on me. No offense to her. Um, so I had to overcome that voice of if I make mistakes, then I somehow am not, as good as my family. But I just started to lean into the mistakes and embrace the mistakes and just see it as a part of life, which it is. So I started doing that, and I just kind of kept pushing myself and pushing myself. Even my comedy style, I call it liberation comedy. And when I go and do stand up, I literally only know the first thing I'm gonna say, and the rest of it is like if it's funny or if it's not funny, we're all gonna find out right then and there. Because I kind of got addicted to just going into the unknown, and so I've increasingly added that to my repertoire. And so I've been doing that a lot with comedy. And now I'm starting to kind of parlay the comedic thing into some music. And I'm doing this too, in part to try to like lighten the burden on myself when I look at the stuff that's going on in our society. Um, but also to hopefully invite other people to consider some things. A lot of my comedy is used to try to get people to question things that they're witnessing. And I'm doing the same thing with music. So the song I'm gonna release today is called Bless You Scredo. And if you're curious about what Scredo is the name that I give to the occupier of, Pennsylvania Avenue. And I call this person Scredo. Uh, at first, it started out for no good reason. I literally was having some dream. I woke up anxious thinking about this person and how divisive this entity is on so many fronts, especially in the Christian front. Because I will tell you, if you read some of my posts like grieving my religion and things like that, I am not thrilled with Christianity right now. We basically suck as a collective. Obviously, there's good Christians out there, but the way that we go along with this stuff that's so the opposite of Jesus and make so many excuses is like at a point of ridiculousness, but I had to make it funnier. So this whole Screedo thing came from a dream. I was having anxiety in my dream. I was almost like about to wake up, and I was just like, God, because I didn't want to write off all the Christians that say that they follow this guy, but because I used to be an evangelical Christian too, so I feel like I had some kind of whatever connection to them. But now I'm not. Now I'm all progressive. But in the dream, I was like stressing out, and somebody said to me, "Hey, it's not that serious, bro. Just start calling him Screedo, and call his followers Screedians, and basically everything will get better." And then I was like, "What's Screedo?" And it was like, "Just start saying it, and you'll find out." So I woke up from the dream, and I started thinking about this. I picked up my phone, did a little doom scroll, which I try not to do, but I did. And I was like, "Ugh!" And then all of a sudden, I said, "Screedo." And then I started giggling. And then I just started saying Screedo around the house all day. And my family was like, "What are you saying, Screedo, man?" And then we like started laughing about it and saying Screedo. And I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm going to expand on this idea of Screedo." And within a few days, basically, I decided that the exact way that the hypocritical so-called Christians practice their religion is the rules of their religion. They say one thing and do another thing. They're like, it's good, it's bad for you, but it's good for me, and that sort of stuff. But I accepted it as a tenet of their religion, and their God, their savior, their Messiah is Screedo, and they're Screedians. And now my brain has been able to compartmentalize this so that now I just go, oh, they're Screedians. That's what they do. And I just let it be over there. And I'm very mindful of the dangers of naming and dehumanizing because I'm black and I know what that has done to us. So I'm not doing it in such a way as to put somebody down, but more so in a way, one, for my own internal fortitude, but also to call things out and get people to think. Because I think some of these people sincerely want to be Christians. I actually, when I used to be a pastor, I had a person come to me and they said, "Pedro, who do you tell the people at your church you should vote for?" And I told them, it's not my job to tell people who to vote for. I'm here for, blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, they went to an evangelical church and he's like, well, our pastor's telling us if we don't vote for Trump, we're not real Christians. I mean, Screedo. Then we're not real Christians. And that person had tears in their eyes because they did not like this dude. And it was a woman and she did not like this person, but she felt like she had to vote for this person because her whole community was doing it. That's terrible. She's a hostage. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel bad for people like that, but they too wrestle with how do they identify it. So I just made up a tool. Screedo and Screedians is the tool. My song today, "Bless You Screedo," is gonna come out. I personally think it's hilarious. I played it for a few people the other day. They were laughing. And yes, it's gonna probably make some people mad, but they shouldn't be Screedians. So fuck them. And I don't usually say that, talk like that, but next thing, liberation. So I got a little note to what I'm gonna talk about there. So liberation. Man, I am here for liberation, period. And it's very sad to me that so many of us live our lives in prisons. Not all of our prisons don't have walls and bars and all this other stuff like that, but we're in mind prisons because of so many things. And a lot of it is shame that has gotten placed on us when we were younger. And we don't know how to navigate our way out of it. Just like when my mom said, "How could you be my son and not be good at public speaking?" That was shame. And I know that shame is a tool that people use for community cohesion because when people were very afraid, they thought they unconsciously thought, if we just really make it uncomfortable for people to go in one direction, then that shame is used as a tool. Hi, LP's vibe. Thanks for joining. Um, but shame is used as a tool for social cohesion. They think like just like in any group, they make these boundaries and these rules, these social rules, and then we comply because we don't want to be out. And a lot of our decision making is still operating from our reptilian brain, and that's unfortunate because we actually could be enjoying more of our lives if we were centered and present with our reality. But a lot of these people, they know that we go into survival mode. If they can use shame, they can use denial, they can use all these tools that make us shut down our consciousness, and then we just freeze and just wait. And it's like it's terrible. It's terrible. And I am trying to I have no intention of living that way. So I that's why I keep pushing myself. and putting myself in uncomfortable situations. Like I'm going to be singing at a conference in a few weeks. I'm going to be singing a song that I wrote that's basically confronting the hypocrisy in Christianity, and I'm singing it at a prophetic reimagining the church conference. I don't sing in public. I do rap because I know how to rap. And even when I've gone to karaoke and tried to sing La Bamba, I sounded terrible. And people said, stick to rap, but I'm going to push myself because in this life, being able to push past these discomforts in a healthy way that expands us and releases the prisons that we've been kind of put into is it's an opportunity. Like one of the things I've been meditating on, this question that I've been meditating on is who would I be if nothing happened to me? So I don't know if y'all are hearing this. A couple people is in here, but just putting that out there to you to ask yourself this question. And I'm asking you, who would you be if nothing happened to you? So I say to myself, who would I be if nothing happened to me? And then I allow what comes up and I let myself grieve the places that I've held myself back because of some things that happened to me in the past. But I owe it to myself to release that. And like some of the things, like when I was a little kid, I loved listening to music. So I said, hey, you know what? I might try to sing. But my brother already could sing. And so I was like, my talking voice sounds like his. So my singing voice probably can't be that different. So I decided to join chorus, even though I couldn't sing. And then I told my mom, this is like fifth grade. And I said, Mom, guess what I did? She said, what's that? I said, I joined chorus. And she's like, you? And I was like, yeah. And she said, you should quit. I hadn't even sang a song yet. And this lady, I know in her mind, she was protecting me from some kind of like disappointment or embarrassment. I guess I was assuming that that's what she was doing. And so I stayed in chorus, but the whole time I was holding my voice back because I was concerned from what my mom expressed. But since then, I pushed myself a few times to sing in public, and very rarely have I done a good job. But I told myself, even when with this conference that I'm gonna be performing at, uh, I'm a sound how I'm a sound. It's the more about the message. But I also am working with a coach, this singing coach, who's the female vocalist on the song, and so she's gonna get me set up to sing. So hey, you know what? Put yourself out there. And I ask all of you, whoever sees this later, ask yourself, who would you be if nothing happened to you, or who would you be if nothing happened? Who would I be if nothing happened to me? Listen for that, and it's gonna bring up some crap. Grieve it, cry, write about it, do whatever you got to do. Don't take it out on the broken people who probably hurt you in the past, because they probably, if they're not dead, they probably at this stage, if they haven't done better, they can't do better. Don't worry about them, but do give yourself that gift of being able to move forward. Next thing I want to talk about is getting older. So in 30 days, I'm gonna be 50, 50. And I told myself a long time ago that I was going to give myself till 50 to for certain things. And one of those things that I told myself I was going to give myself to 50 to um, was to grind at my faith, to like really put my heart and soul into living out the tenets of the tradition that I chose. And I say chose because I was born into a Christian family, and then kind of had the focus on the family evangelical Christian stuff. It's like stuff down my throat. But I found value in a lot of it until I went out as an adult and started to find out that a lot of people who preach that stuff didn't practice it. And my first inclination after I got kicked out of a church for saying some things that were basically nothing, I tried to be an atheist because I was so pissed, because I was like avoiding sex and all this other stuff, like trying to be a super good Christian. And boy, finding out these fools are lying was devastating. But hey, what are you gonna do? I didn't even go to my prom because I was scared the girl was gonna try to do something with me. Mm-mm-mm. And I didn't want to mess up. I was like, oh man, I don't want to do nothing with her. So that's how Christian I was. I was a doofus. I'll just say it like that. I was pretty doofus. Like if you look back, if you knew me when I was like younger and I was trying to hand out Bibles and stuff, I was a doofus. But at any rate, I learned. I constantly learned and iterated. And so my first thing was I just tried to just dump the whole thing all together. And then I came back because I had like a spiritual encounter. I don't talk about the spiritual encounters I had that much because when I first started talking about them, people thought I was weird. So I just stopped saying it. And it wasn't because of what people thought. It was that I witnessed that it would fill me up with joy. But then when I told somebody and they crapped on it, it would go down. So I was like, well, why? I don't need to share with people. But so I learned to wait until I've gotten the full import of whatever experience I had before I share with people, because then I'm solid. So then if they say something, it's not going to do anything to me. So I had this really interesting spiritual experience. Well, I'll say I felt like it was with Christ, right? And so after that experience, I said, I'm going to believe absolutely or not at all. And so I chose absolutely, which then meant that as I lived my life, anything that bumped up against this idea of an infinitely loving creator that imparted on each one of us a, an equal capacity to love and to create, that I had to let those things go so that I could experience the fullness of this relationship with this creator, right? So I've been in a long process of letting go. But I also told myself, because at first I started thinking like maybe I should look at some different religions or like new age stuff or whatever. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to really know Christianity 100% unless I like submit to it, because it's just like anything. You don't know if it works until you test it out. And so I said, well, let me just test it out and I'm going to give myself till 50. And if it hasn't worked by 50, then I'm just going to be like, whatever. I gave it a shot, you know? And it's a lifelong commitment. I'm not trying to say it's not a lifelong commitment, but what I mean by that is the certain disciplines of it. And so along that lines, even when I saw other people being hypocrites and liars and all this other stuff like that, I was a pastor. I walked away from being a pastor because I couldn't deal with the hypocrisy. So I just rather not have a job and like scrounge, which I've been scrounging. I don't even know how I'm surviving, truth be told. It's now, this one thing, if I believe in God, is that I still can pay my bills. That's a miracle, bro. 100%. I don't even know how I'm paying my bills half the time. Like I legit like will be like, ooh, shoot. But something keeps working out. Thank you. At any rate, but I walked away from that because I just like could not deal with the hypocrisy. I just couldn't take it, you know. And I said, "All right, God, if you're real, you ain't gonna let me. Maybe you will let me find myself in the streets." I even told people in the church. They said, "Well, when will we see you again?" I said, "Maybe you're gonna see me in the homeless line asking for food after my wife leaves me for not having a job, and my kids go live with my in-laws." And they were like, "That's terrible, man. Why would you say that?" And I was just like, I don't know, because I really don't know what's gonna happen. But so far, so good. At any rate, um, but now that I'm creeping up on 50, it's some things that I literally am letting go, and a lot of it is my like compassion, I guess you'll call it, for scredians. And if you weren't listening earlier, LP, scredians are what I call the people who follow 45-47 occupier of the White House. I call that person Scredo, and I call his worshipers Scredians because they're not Christians. I don't care what they say. So at any rate, I told myself like at 50, I got to be done with them because it's not worth the energy of trying to tell somebody like everything that you're saying. This Jesus that they say they follow is said, what you do to the least of these, you do to me. And they have no problem treating people like trash, which means not everybody, obviously, but systemically. And so I can't pretend like I cannot have the conversation that they're Christians. I just won't. So as of 30 days from now, I'm sorry if you're a friend of mine, a family member, or whatever, and you're a Scredian. I'm not kicking you to the curb in the sense that I'm just like not gonna talk to you again, but I'm definitely not gonna believe anything you say when it comes to your Scredianity. I'm just gonna be like, you lie, you're a hypocrite. Embrace your religion and shut the F up. Like I'm not gonna listen to you. And I don't mean it in a mean way. I'm gonna assume everything you say is made up. And that's for my own well-being. And because you lie. You like lie. So it's like that's just what you do. Like if you say this dude is a Christian, you are a liar. And I'm not saying because that person can't be in the process. I don't know what's going on in Screedo's brain. But what I do know is this dude consistently, you know how they say if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. If it walks like a Screedo and talks like a Screedo, it's the Scredo. And I am committed to the anti-Scredo, which is the way of love and embracing humanity and being present with the full experience of being human, caring for other people, stuff like that. So now that I'm 50, I'm getting older. You see my gray hairs are starting to show. I am not about that. So I gave it's a 30-day countdown, and then people are gonna be surprised. But I'm not. If you know me, you know that I know how to walk away, burn bridges, burn boats, and just say, "Well, we gave it a shot." So that's where I'm gonna be in 30 days from now. And unless the only way I'm gonna change, and I wrote about this, the only way I'm gonna change is if Scredo comes out and go, I'm a double agent. I really came to show people how hypocritical they were. They fell for it, but really I follow the way of love and like I'm undoing all this stuff. I was just testing y'all. If he comes out and says that, and then I'll change my mind. But if he doesn't come out and say that, 30 days, I'm out with y'all screenius. And I guess the last thing I'm gonna say from my little list is random, but I had this awesome conversation with this telemarketer today. Yesterday I had a telemarketer call me, wanted to know, wanted to know if I wanted to whatever, like do some kind of mortgage thing, cash out or whatever. And I was like, well, you know what? And they hung up on me immediately. And I said, you know what? And when they hung up on me, I thought about that story in the Bible where when Jesus was hungry and he came across a fig tree and it didn't have any fruit on it, and Jesus cursed it and it shriveled up. A lot of people don't read the Bible, so they don't know about that story. So Jesus cursed it, and I said, you know what? I really feel like fig tree in this person. I didn't fig tree them, but I was close. I literally was like, you know what? I'm tired of these people. Rude people call my house or my phone. They hang up on me because I don't want to do a mortgage cash out like I owe them no screening. So I felt some kind of way. So then I got a similar number call me today. And I said, I wonder if it's another one of these mugs. But I try to live from a place of openness. So I answered. It was another telemarketer, same organization as the person who hung up on me. But this time, person says, "Sir, blah blah blah." And then when I started to say to the person, that see somebody else joined, can't see. Welcome, whoever this fourth person is. So when the telemarketer this time said, tried to tell me about the mortgage thing, I said, I got a low rate during COVID. And they said, oh, you know what, sir, I completely understand. It was a nice young lady. Her baby was crying in the background. And I said, you know what? I just want to tell you that, you're doing a great job. And I know that if you keep this attitude that you have right now and you keep going forward and you treat people the way you want to be treated, then everything in your life is going to work out. And I know that sounds like kind of pie in the sky, but I found that there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that, a lot of truth to it. And so she and I had a good conversation, and I could tell both of us were getting teary eyed. And I didn't know this lady from any place. Her name's Nicole. But you know one thing, I bless Nicole. I hope Nicole thrives, flourishes. I hope her kid flourishes. She said that she tries to make the best out of every situation, and I want the best for whoever she is. And it made me think, every single day we have these encounters, these random encounters with people, and those encounters can be blessings or they can be, I guess, the opposite of blessings. I'm not going to go as far to say curses, but we have these encounters, and these encounters are opportunities for us to add a little bit more good to the world and to the atmosphere that we're all a part of. And I am choosing to give as much positive reinforcement and blessing and creativity and art and just support and encouragement to people who are trying. For the people who are too scared to try, I'm not going to say nothing to you. I'm going to let you keep your head in the ostrich hole and just, you know, try your luck. And then to your opposite people, I'm going to be like, fig you. And that's going to be my new cuss for them. Fig you. And that's short for Jesus cursing the fig tree. Fig you, you fruitless person. And I'm going to be cool with that because I don't know, as I start this video off about Chico, my former stepdad dying and the grief that it brought up for me, we all are here temporarily. We have an opportunity to be a gift to this world or make the world worse than we existed. And I choose to make it better. So every day, hey, what's up, Rob Stewart? Every day I'm trying to be additive to the world and to the people that I encounter. And I'm getting very clear on my lines, which is a gift, because sometimes you don't know. And so when you don't know, you kind of put your eggs in a bunch of different baskets. But sometimes, they say don't put your egg in one basket. That's partially good advice. But what if you got a strong reinforced basket with spots for each egg, and then you got another one that's like a raggedy ass basket with holes in it and a paper? Then you will say, well, I shouldn't put all my eggs in one basket. No, I'm gonna put all my eggs in this reinforced strong basket that protects my freaking fragile eggs. So that's what I'm gonna do. And this other one, maybe I know, and I put a few eggs in it, and then it ripped and all my eggs broke. I'm not using that basket anymore. That's how I feel about the evangelical, some of them, Scredian people. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Scredians are my name for the fake Christians. Rob said he can't hear me, which I don't know why he can't hear me. Can other people hear me? Because it would be very interesting if I'm up here talking this whole time and no one heard me. If you can hear me, um, give a thumbs up or something like that. LP's vibe. If you're still here, can you hear me? Well, this is interesting because I've been talking for a minute. So if nobody can hear me, then that is very awkward. Let's see. Well, this is real time. I just said that I was cool with mistakes. Let's see. Can others hear me? Christine can hear me. All right, thanks, Christine. I was about to say, because this will be, at least it'll be cathartic, because I would have said all this crap for myself if nobody can hear me. Rob, I don't know why you can't hear me, and you can't hear me saying I don't know why you can't hear me. Um, so I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just gonna put I don't know in the chat. I don't know. Thanks, Christine. Bless you. So at any rate, I mean, I probably should wind down. The whole reason why I got up here is because I really just wanted to catch up with people. I appreciate all the folks who are subscribers, paid, unpaid. And I have about 50 posts that I have written that I have not shared. So I don't have an excuse for not publishing anything. It's just I really, really try to make sure that whatever I release into the world is something that I can own, something that I can be like, okay, I put this out here and maybe people don't like it. Maybe it, blah, 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 blah. But I was 100% when I put it out. And so some stuff I legitimately wrote before the election in last year. I literally wrote 150 pages book that I was trying to release a month before the election. And it was like, I basically was going in on people. I was just like, blue blam, because I could see the misogyny and the racism and all the stuff that was at play in people not supporting Kamala Harris. And I was hearing, because I'm connected to a lot of Scredians because of my past and through marriage and through growing up in the South. And I was like so frustrated from hearing all their stuff that I like literally wrote like letters to Scredo, letters to like Scredo is DJT. But letters to like self-hating black people, like racist and like people, BIPOC people that want to be white and like all like I was just going in on it, and it was like releasing. I was like, my fingers were hurting because I was just like trying to write all stuff. And there's a lot of insult comedy and all this other stuff like that. Something is not what people normally think of when they think of me, but it's just like everything else is in me, right? I just try to be very conscious about what I put out there. And then like maybe 2 weeks before the election, um, my daughter, I said, I'm pretty much done with the book. And then my daughter said, congratulations, Dad. You wrote 150 pages about how much you hate Trump. And I mean, Scredo. And then, and I felt some kind of way because I care about my daughter. And so I was like, dang. And so I never published it because I didn't want my daughters to have to deal with that aspect of what was emerging for me. So I just took it as an exercise in like freeing myself from some stuff and some catharsis. You know what I mean? So I got it out. I got it out of me without putting it on anybody else. And maybe one day it's gonna come out, or maybe when I die, somebody's gonna look at my computer and be like, "Dang, Pedro was a secret jerk." But anyway, I think it's all in everybody. One of the things I do not do is I do not deny what's inside of me. Everything across the human spectrum I have inside me, and I face it with my eyes wide open. I just look at it. I call it for what it is. If I'm being like one time when I was super, super, super evangelical Christian, and there's a scripture passage that says that a person can't be enlightened. Yes, the word enlightened is in the Bible. A person can't be enlightened and then recall things to repentance. Otherwise, they crucify Christ for themselves, crucify Christ again for themselves, which basically means if you really understand the teachings of the scriptures, then you will live from this place of enlightenment, and you can't get like unenlightened and then unenlightened and then back enlightened again. That's like getting out of the matrix and then trying to go back into the matrix, right? So I told my friend, and this before the movie The Matrix came out. That's what's actually interesting. It becomes interesting because one of my buddies, he was dealing with something. This one I was evangelical, and he was like, struggling with a sin problem, let's call it, from his perspective. And then he said, "How do I stop this sinning, man? I don't want to keep sinning." I said, "Just write a note and put it on something to say, I have the hammer, I have the nails, and Jesus, I'm willing to murder you for this habit." And he was like, "What?" I said, "That's what I tell myself." And he's like, "What?" And he was like, "That's terrible." I said, "No." I said, "Every time I get ready to do something that I don't feel is right, and I know it's not right, I say to myself, 'Hey, Jesus, I'm willing to murder you for this.'" And then it checks me. And that's how like I was at it. Like, yo, I'm a own this, bro. You know what I mean? And I was pretty gangster with my Christianity. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna own this. I'm like, and if somebody, and I would say to people, they say, "Well, Pedro, blah blah blah." I say, "Yeah, man, I'm not willing to kill Jesus for it." And that never caught on as a saying, but I would just be like, "No, I'm not willing." And I took it that way, and I don't know where I got that idea from. I mean, besides that scripture passage, but I was kind of gangster with it, and that's why I was like, if I could tell you some stuff of how I was when I was trying to be super Christian. And I'm still super Christian, but I'm lighter with, the humanity now than I used to be. But at any rate, all that to say, um, I am coming to this point in my journey where I'm just like fully owning everything. I've done my best to fully own everything anyway, but I'm continuing to fully own it. But I'm also drawing very clear lines so that people don't have any fuzzy questions. And I used to have clear lines when I was younger, and some people said that I was too direct, and so I started to like kind of soften the blows. But you know, 50 is a unique age because it's like you're still young enough to do some stuff like maybe you could ride a skateboard and somebody be like, "Dang, that dude's 50 riding a skateboard," and they want to think you're too old, but on the other side they're like impressed. That's a sweet age to be in. That's where I'm about to be. You know what I'm saying? I'm being 50, but I'm not like senior citizen old where they're like, what the heck is he doing? You know? It's like it's just a sweet spot, and I choose to make the most of that sweet spot. Plus, I know that tomorrow's not promised. I may not even make it to 50. I hope I do because I want to enjoy my, you know, that season and have some fun, make some music, do some comedy, be creative, those sorts of things, and make the most of it. And like, I got kids, I got an 8-year-old, so I really want to enjoy that season. But I'm also mindful that it's not promised to me. So I'm gonna treasure every moment I have. So I'm treasuring it now, but I'm gonna make a big deal out of being 50. I might not have like a big old party or whatever, but or something. But I'm definitely going to enjoy that sweet age where like I'm in between old and young, like right in that sweet spot. And then I'm black. So if I had this gray hair, I probably look like I don't know, maybe I don't look, but I'm looking, I still look kind of young. Like if my hair turned black because my went gray kind of quickly when I had my other daughter, because this kid would not sleep. But before that, people thought I was in my 20s before this gray hair started popping out, I don't know, I just look like that. So I'm gonna make the most of this season. So I don't know. I hopefully this catch up for those of y'all who stuck around. I appreciate you sticking here. I hope you got something out of it. I'm continuing to write. I'm going to release this "Bless You" Screedo song today, and also I'm going to share some content of more content of the Screedian things that I was talking about, and I invite you to use it as a tool. Um, oh shoot, had trouble getting got steady audio till a minute ago. I don't know what's going on with the audio. Honestly, that stinks. And hey, Rev Evelyn, I don't know if you can hear me. Some people are having audio problems, and I literally have no idea what it could be. Um, so I'm sorry about the audio problems. I was about to wind down on the video. Hopefully, the recording is better. And Christine, do you still have audio problems? Okay. And then Evelyn saying I'm clear on her end. That's good. Thank you for the engagement. I feel like sometimes now the video is gone. That's wild. So I don't know. This is an interesting experience for me too. It's gonna be interesting in this video. Evelyn saying she'll catch the replay. Thank you for being up here, though. I appreciate you popping up here. Because of sound issues that are happening for some folks and the audio is happening, uh, Reverend Evelyn saying she can still see me. So who knows? Maybe I keep saying Screedo too much. Okay, now it's back, said Christine. I don't know. Maybe Screedo is hearing me saying stuff and they're like cutting out my feed. Like, oh no, he's revealing our Screedian secrets. Who knows? But I'm gonna put this song out later today. I think you're gonna think it's hilarious. Unless you're a Screedo DJT supporter, then you won't like it. But I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate whoever checks out some of this later. It's quite lengthy. I don't normally make videos this long, but I just wanted to get a bunch of stuff off my chest, show my appreciation, catch y'all up, and let you know that I will be more frequently releasing some stuff as well. I've also been working on this project for the city of Boulder, which has been very interesting in terms of human relations. And that's been taking up some time too, but I didn't get into that. But I appreciate y'all. I love y'all because we're all emerging from love. So thank you for being here. And until next time.